What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. We got some big news for you guys here in this video. We got some threats against the United States from both Russia and Iran, as well as nuclear threats. I'm going to give you the details here in this video, which are very, very concerning. This comes as President Donald Trump has given an ultimatum and a timeline to both Iran and Russia, and I'll let you hear directly from the president here. And Iran's supreme leader has given a direct threat to the United States, and this is very concerning for a lot of people after President Donald Trump dropped those strikes directly into Iran, and a lot of people are concerned about the retaliation and what they're planning. Also, President Donald Trump is diagnosed with a health condition after people started noticing that his hand was being covered up by makeup and his ankles. His ankles being covered, or his ankles swollen. So I'll give you the details here of what the White House has acknowledged here about President Donald Trump here as well. So let's jump right in. I'm going to give you the details of all of this here in this video. We are live right now here on the YouTube It's Jimmy Show. Let me know if you can see and hear me. Type yes in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. You can let me know your city, state, or even your country, as we have people tuning in here from all around the globe. Don't forget to hit that like button for me here, and if you haven't yet, subscribe down below so you don't miss out on future videos and help me reach 500,000 subscribers. Take a look here. Okay, Iran's supreme leader issues threats. We're going to cover this here as well as this is actually breaking news here. The FBI responding to an explosion at a LA sheriff training site, leading to deputies losing their lives. This is coming here in Los Angeles County here, where an explosion occurred. 3 people confirmed to have lost their lives, prompting swift responses here from emergency service, raising questions about what has happened here. Wow. Our thoughts and prayers go out to there. Officials confirmed a loud noise but have not released a formal statement on the cause or the scope of the incident. The facility was used for law enforcement training, and investigators are working to determine whether it was explosives or hazardous materials were involved. Wow. So you guys can let me know your thoughts here as more details come in here on this, and we will see here. So we have Russia issuing a nuclear warning and a threat from Iran here as well. Russia issuing nuclear warning after President Donald Trump's ultimatum for Russia, and President Putin has basically just been dismissed from Russia and basically laughed at by President Putin. Trump gives Putin a strict ultimatum to make a deal on Ukraine or face consequences within 50 days. Russia says, basically, yeah, right, take a hike. Take a listen here.
Just days into President Trump's 50-day peace deal deadline, Russia issuing threats over America's support for Ukraine. The deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council saying, quote, "The statements of Western politicians on this topic are complete nonsense. We need to act accordingly to respond in full and, if necessary, launch preemptive strikes."
Meanwhile, top NATO leaders are working hard to get U.S. Patriot missiles to Ukraine.
Preparations are underway. We're working very closely with the Germans on the Patriot transfer, and the guidance that I've been given has been to move out as quickly as possible. Air defense is important on the modern battlefield, and we've seen the scale of recent Russian attacks against Ukraine, so it is a key focus area.
Here with more is U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Matt Whitaker. Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us. So that comment about a potential preemptive strike by Russia into the West was by Dmitry Medvedev. How seriously is NATO taking something like that?
Yeah. Well, obviously, we take every threat seriously. NATO was built to deter and defend, especially against Russia. So, this is not surprising. But at the same time, I think this kind of reckless, threatening and even trying to suggest that nuclear weapons are an option, I think is, a very dangerous escalation. But, we're obviously prepared for any threat to the alliance, and we'll, make sure that we are always ready for any threat to the alliance.
Ambassador, I know you can't go into specifics, but since Trump announced the 50-day negotiation window, has Russia shown any willingness to negotiate at all? And do you think the transfer of these Patriot missiles will ultimately force Putin to the table?
Well, first of all, obviously, Ukraine needs to defend itself, and that's what President Trump has been clear about. Whether or not Vladimir Putin comes to the table and agrees to a ceasefire and ultimately negotiates an enduring peace in Ukraine, that's up to him. It's very clear that President Zelensky is ready to make a deal and has expressed that. But at the same time, we are providing the weapons necessary. Ukraine has identified Patriot systems and air defense as the most important thing on their list. And so obviously you heard General Grinkowicz, he's moving out on that. And there's a lot of other things that we're moving out on as well. And I think President Trump has created an urgency that we're all trying to meet right now here in Brussels and really across NATO and across the U.S. military.
So what will happen here? Russia threatening preemptive strikes to the West or NATO, which is the United States and the United States allies. Let me know your thoughts here. I've long said that President Putin from Russia is not a friend and basically will do whatever he wants, and the chickens are coming home to roost. Let me know your thoughts here. This also comes here as Iran's supreme leader issues threats here as well. Iran's supreme leader has warned that they are prepared to strike back harder if attacked again, following the ceasefire with Israel. Quote, if the enemy repeats its aggression, which could be Israel or could be the United States, the response will be stronger than the blow it received during the 12-day war. The conflict, which began on June 13th, involved both Israel and the United States strike on Iranian military and nuclear targets. Iranian state media also reported that they may boost uranium enrichment to weapon-grade levels. It also warned that it could exit the nuclear non-proliferation treaty if European powers trigger the UN snapback sanctions mechanisms by the end of August. The deadline was set by the US, France, Germany, and the UK amid ongoing stalled nuclear talks. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has acknowledged Iran's interest in talks but expressed no urgency. Here's what he said previously as well.
We have scheduled Iran talks, and they want to talk. They took a big drubbing. I think when we hit the three sites, really, I would say the three sites, not just the one. The one was a big one, and it was deep in granite, and it was obliterated. It turned out the Atomic Energy Commission said it is obliterated. I would just want to take our hats off to those incredible flyers, the people that flew that big machine, and frankly, the mechanics and everybody else. I mean, they had zero. They flew for 37 hours with zero problem mechanically. I mean, when you think in carrying the biggest bombs ever, the biggest bombs that we've ever dropped on anybody, when you think non-nuclear, and we want to keep it non-nuclear, by the way. But they did a phenomenal job.
This also comes here previously as Iran has threatened President Donald Trump directly with a drone strike to him personally at Mar-a-Lago, basically saying that if he was out there sunbathing, that they would strike him with a drone strike personally. And there's also a $40 million bounty on his head from Iran. So there's a lot of I don't even know how to word this, but it ain't pretty here on either side, and there's a lot of potential for ominous things here from either sides here. And, you know, the words World War III have been thrown around here a lot. And some people think we're already in it with two major wars going on here. And the U.S. Officially entered into it one way or another with, nuclear strikes on Iran, helping Israel, helping Ukraine, and the involvement there one way or another. And you kind of got to wonder here, how does this end? How much longer does this progress? Does this fizzle out, or does this keep going on, or does this get escalated even more? How do you get somebody like Putin to stop, who just keeps repeatedly saying he's not going to stop? And the problem is he's got thousands of nukes, so you have to walk that fine line there. And you just want to hope that somebody like China, who's kind of a Russian ally, doesn't go into the war. That would be even worse. It would be, so you kind of got to wonder here, how do we stop this? And also, have somebody like Ukraine who just doesn't give up half of their country, and those people basically become Putin's, which he'll basically just, put him into his army and they'll just become gone, all those lives. So same thing with Israel and that whole situation in there. So it's really a tough situation. And I think President Donald Trump is realizing that this situation is a lot tougher to navigate through and to come to peace deals than he thought. He thought he would have it done by day one, and obviously that hasn't happened. So let me know your thoughts. Also, President Donald Trump undergoes a medical exam for swelling in his legs and hand bruising after it was noticed by people. He had makeup on his hand covering a bruising for days, and the White House decided to acknowledge it. Another headline here: doctors react to alleged Trump health concerns as photos show swelling and bruising, as the White House downplays it. Take a listen here.
Caroline Leavitt wrapping that very newsy White House press briefing where she led off with an explanation of a diagnosis that the president has received on his health. She said and confirmed he's been diagnosed with a chronic venous insufficiency. She also added that this is common in people over the age of 70 years old. John, we're going to bring on Dr. Siegel to react to that in just a moment. She was also asked if he is suffering from any discomfort, and she said no, not at this time, but certainly some have been noticing the bruising and swelling that he's been experiencing in his hand and his legs, John.
All right, well, Dr. Siegel is joining us. And Dr. Siegel, let's first start off by playing out what Caroline Leavitt said at the top of the briefing regarding the president's health. Listen here.
The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70. Importantly, there was no evidence of deep vein thrombosis or arterial disease. Laboratory testing included a complete blood count, comprehensive metabolic panel, coagulation profile, D-dimer, B-type natriuretic peptide, and cardiac biomarkers. All results were within normal limits. An echocardiogram was also performed and confirmed normal cardiac structure and function. No signs of heart failure, renal impairment, or systemic illness were identified.
So it sounds like good news. We've got a close-up picture of the back of the president's hand where you see some bruising. He looks like he's got it covered with makeup there. I was on Eliquis, a blood thinner, when I had atrial fibrillation for a while, Doc, and I would bruise in a stiff breeze. So, I mean, for a person his age who's taking aspirin therapy for his heart, that wouldn't be unusual. But what do you think of the overall report from the White House here?
Well, first of all, John, Sandra, I'm actually impressed with how open it is and how detailed it is, because they actually answered all of the questions that I would have had. Maybe contrast that from the previous administration when everything was cloak and dagger. Look, she has a lot of details that reassure me. He doesn't have a deep vein thrombosis. He doesn't have a deep vein there. They checked that. They checked it with ultrasound, and they checked it with a blood test called D-dimer. They checked his heart. Why are his legs swelling? Could it be backup from the heart? No. His echocardiogram is normal. So they ended up with a diagnosis that it's venous disease, which is very common in his age. And it simply means that the valves in the veins they're not as hardy as they were before, so blood pools out on its way back to the heart. That's not serious. It's completely benign. It's cosmetic, and it's expected from a man in his late 70s who's standing on his feet all the time. And to your point about her point about shaking hands, Carolyn Levitt says, look, he's on an aspirin. He shakes a lot of hands. I've shaken the man's hand. He gives a very vigorous handshake.
So let me know your thoughts. Make sure to share this video with anybody that needs to hear this information, and subscribe down below so you don't miss out on future videos, and help me reach 500,000 subscribers. Click this video here to see something that's going to affect all Americans that just came out. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you